This week's show brought to you by Frank Shoup, Georgetown's big name in cars. Roosters, a fun casual joint. Welcome once again to the Scott County Coaches Show, the News Graphic Scott County Coaches Show. I'm Kal Oakes, your host. This is Coach McKee from Scott County. And Coach, this is bye week. This is the week where we all get to take a deep breath and relax a little bit. You relaxed?
Well, what about our viewers?
You're always on the viewers.
Are we going up or down?
You're always worried about the viewers.
I don't think an open day, we probably won't get a lot of views on the open day. I mean, no, it's, I think that every situation that happens to you, you got to find good in it. Mm-hmm. And, we look at this as a great opportunity. Not only as players, but also as coaches to get away a little bit. We gave our kids a weekend off, and other than the weightlifting that they'll do in weightlifting class during the day, they'll be off until Thursday, and then we'll give them Friday and Saturday off again, and then we'll go back in on the normal routine on Sunday. And if you didn't have an open date this week, then you would say that's great too. We're really starting to get rolling. Yeah. So you got to turn it and spin it in a manner in which it's positive for your kids no matter what.
So as a coach, would you rather not have one under normal circumstances?
Well, the only reason I would rather not have one would just be from the simple standpoint that we have to start football so early in August. And to keep a 10-game regular season and to keep our current playoff system set up like it is, it would be tough for us to keep the open date in there and start any later. So I don't object at all to starting football later. I don't know what your family situation is, and it's none of my business. But, like my own children, as I've watched them grow up, we continually, in my opinion, as a society nationwide, are pushing kids towards sports specialization, which I don't like.
I don't like it either.
I don't like it at all. I mean, you're talking about it, and just use football. Use football as the example. Forget about the baseball and basketball. You're talking about 8 or 9-year-old kids need to be on an all-star travel football team. Nah, they don't.
Not a big fan of the whole all-star concept for kids that young. Anyway.
I mean, there's nothing wrong with playing like all-star baseball. I loved it, but there has to become a point in time when August 1st that's enough baseball. It's time for kids that want to go out and play football to play football or whatever. So, so the one thought process would be we would start school a little bit later and start football practice a little bit later. Then I could see doing away with the open day.
And not only that, but as early as you start it now, the heat is a factor for you.
I mean, gosh, it was freaking unbelievable last Friday. I think it was as hot Friday kickoff as it was for the opener, wasn't it?
Yeah, September was as hot as August, and I'm sure that takes a lot out of a team.
Today feels like the first fall type day. I told you,
you've been talking it's going to change.
That's part of the process. Is we'll be sitting out here if we keep doing this thing outside in a toboggan. That's great, though. I mean, we're in the playoffs.
That's football.
Rolling.
Right? That's traditional football.
Keep feeding the program. More wins.
Yeah. So, as far as where the bye comes in your schedule, it came in a pretty good spot.
Oh, it does.
Right around the middle.
I think there's two places you can have it. One is right before you go into your district games. So a Cooper Watts has got an extra week to possibly get back, or anybody that's dinged around a little bit can. So you should be able to go into your first district game as close to 100% healthy as possible. And another good time to have it, and which is when we have it the next 2-year cycling period, is we have it the last week of the season. So we'll play 10 games in a row, have the off week, and then get ready for the playoffs.
So if you had it in a situation like that, you wouldn't worry about it breaking your momentum at all?
No, that's overrated. I mean, you think about guys that come out after, a couple week period, and nobody broke Louisville's momentum last year in their bowl game.
That's true.
After they'd had 27 days off, they came out and had.
Nobody's broken it since either.
Yeah, nah, that's too much. You've been buying into. You must have taken like media 101 over to college or something. You and Scroggs there. Alves, they got you over buying into the lingo.
I was a psychology major. So
okay,
that explains it. So you're getting everybody healthy. You're getting ready for
lifting lots of weights.
Lots of weights.
Like crazy. Guys getting new bench press maxes, power clean maxes, and this Thursday we're going to do something fun for the kids. We'll have a little combine setting where they'll all get timed in the 40 and the shuttle run and get a power clean max and do a height weight check. You know, and then you got to buckle it down. You know, once you get going the following Sunday, there's no break till whenever it's over.
Is that something you do at the beginning of the season also, that combine thing, or you just do it?
Yeah, we do it a little bit at the end of the school year every year. So, you know, we'll be able to compare how tall they were, what they weighed, what their 40 was, you know, the end of May-ish now to the 1st October. And it's fun for them. You know, they all like to say, well, I ran, you know, what'd you run? What'd you run? I mean, I did that too. I remember my coach, Ray Grammy, probably as good a Christian man as he is, he had to lie because he said I broke 5 flat. There's no way I broke 5 flat.
With a calendar, so I don't know.
So we're looking forward to that.
Looking back to last week's game a little bit, your starters kind of got a break in that one too. They almost got almost like an extra bye week after that first quarter. They got to kind of sit on the sidelines and watch some of the younger kids because you were so far ahead.
Well, and it's a great opportunity, you know, for our younger guys to get in the game on a Friday night. It's the first opportunity we've had. And, you know, you got to take advantage of every opportunity like that you've got, because they're guys, I don't know if you noticed or not, but, you know, I knew they were going to play in the second half, so we got them out there on the field while the band was still performing to get more practice, to get them ready. Because some of those guys are going to have to play next year on Friday night. And as focused as you are on today, and that's what we should be, you're also remiss if you don't have a vision for a long-term plan as well. And whenever I leave and retire, you know, I want to leave the program in great shape for the next guy, you know.
And it's one of those things where you can't really plan for that experience. You can't replicate that experience any other way than being under the lights.
It's just like writing your first article, whenever it was, how many years ago, or your first interview.
We're the same age pretty much, too many years ago.
Yeah, I mean, you can't replicate it. You gotta go out there and do it, and you know, first opportunity we've had. And also, you know, I mean, I think sometimes, and I'm not going to call them out by name but you know, we've got some seniors on the team that don't get to play a lot. I got a lot of respect for those guys.
They've stuck with it for a long time.
They've stuck with it, man. And, you know, it's not easy to do. I mean, now we go to a game at Commonwealth Stadium, it's okay if we have to park a mile or two away, but, you know, go to a game at Georgetown College and have to park more than 100 yards and people are griping. I mean, we live in a world of instant gratification. And for those seniors, you know, we had a group of them that got in there and really got to play a lot for the first time, several of them. I was glad for that. And they're valuable members. You know, you look out there, you see Glenn Covington or Colby McKee or Josh Davis or whatever. It's not all about them. You know, there's got to be somebody out here holding the bag dummy during team. There's got to be somebody out there replicating the other team's plays. You know, football takes a lot of effort, and it was great to get those guys on the field and reward them.
Yeah, when you have that many guys on your roster, those guys are valuable in practice, but a lot of times the general public doesn't see them out on the field.
No, and you know, we're all guilty of overlooking the behind-the-scenes things. You know, just like the amount of volunteers that it takes to run our concession stand. Somebody to set up you know, all anybody would say if we didn't have the cardinal or the helmet one day is like, well, I wonder where the cardinal is. Well, the flip side of it would be, why don't you volunteer to help set it up? But that's just not the society that we live in. So yeah, it takes a ton of effort. Like David Higgs, I don't know if he would ever watch this show, but we try to shout out to him every week. You know, he's been pulling on those horns. You ought to write an article about him.
Yeah.
He's been pulling on those horns since I know 2003, and he's never missed a home game. And I'll go from one year to the next and not even talk to him. But I just know when I walk out there, I look down there in his truck, he'll be pulling in. And so it takes a lot of effort from behind the scenes from a lot of people. So it was great to have a game like that to get everybody in.
Yeah, the people that keep a program together are often the ones that get taken for granted. Any program, football, any program.
Sport. You know, 80-20 rule or 90-10 rule. You know, 90% of the work comes from 10% of the people. It's like your offensive rule. It's 80-20 offense. 80% of your offense comes from 20% of your plays. You know, you practice all this different offense. You're going to do this, you're going to do that. Going to look at this, going to look at that. Bottom line is, for the most part, you know, you're going to run the same number. You're going to get 80% of your offense from 20% of your plays.
So the district schedule, you got them all lined up.
Got them all lined up. Look like you know, just on paper, looking at it, that nobody is extremely strong, but everybody has got some good players. It looks like Dunbar's improving, and you know, I know Bryan Station's got a young quarterback. Cornell Burbage's son. I saw in the paper this week where Bryan Station's had 8 guys from their high school playing the NFL. And, Henry Clay's always a huge rival for us. So it'll be fun. We're really looking forward to it.
And you coaches always say one game at a time, but with these district games coming October, you kind of start looking at those back early, a little bit ahead of time, weeks ahead.
Well, we're guilty of that. And I've been guilty of it. Really, the old coaching cliche is correct. You got to be focused on. Right now, our focus is, if I saw one of them down here today, run them off, so they can, they don't need to be around here today. But, your focus has got to be the next game and the next play, the next practice. And I have been guilty of overlooking and saying, well, now, when we take on Kal Oakes and that bunch, and then all of a sudden you don't get there.
Yeah.
So, our focus right now is just resting, lifting weights, and, doing our run on Thursday, and then we'll get in here and go at it. We're looking forward to it.
So the last thing you want to see is a player milling around here
today.
You want them to kind of enjoy this time. And
they need that, because there is no break afterwards. After this.
We forget these are 16.
And you also forget, kids. The amount of time. Football is it's obviously a voluntary sport or activity. I get that, but now we do grind on them hard. Mm-hmm. Down the stretch here, they're looking at Saturday will be their only day off. They come in on Sunday afternoons and lift and watch the film, and then Monday we get after them good. Tuesday we get after them good. Wednesday we get after them good. Thursday morning before school, the varsity practice, and then the JV will work Thursdays after school. So
then they got to go home and keep their grades up.
And then they got to pass, and they got to meet the demands of their parents, whatever they've got put on them, and they got to work or whatever. So they need a break. They need to be fresh. I made some mistakes earlier in my career, overvaluing the game that took place in August or even September. The games you remember are the November football games, and while it would be great to have an undefeated season, and we've been fortunate enough to have a couple of those around here, that's not the case this year. So our focus is not on being undefeated. Our focus is on doing everything we can to put ourselves in the best position to play well in November.
Well, this is the last coaches show for the month of September, so that day is getting short, getting closer to us.
And even like I told you today, you mentioned about getting a couple of the guys in here, and I really didn't want to do that. I didn't want to call them and say, hey, we need you to get on the show today. I wanted to go ahead and give them off. But we'll have them back next week, and they'll be back in here. We are practicing next week. Everything's in the morning since we're on fall break. So we're 9 o'clock in the morning all week next week, 9 to 11. Just a heads up on that.
Well, as he mentioned, no players today, but we do have some highlights from last week's game, last week's big win over George Rogers Clark. Let's take a look at that.